How many discounts does USAA Auto Insurance offer? Too many to say here. Multi-vehicle discount, safe driver discount, new vehicle discount, storage discount, legacy.
How many discounts will you stack up? Visit USAA.com/auto discounts. Restrictions apply.
Welcome back to another edition of the Disney Dish podcast with Jim Hill. It's me, Len Testa, and this is our show for the week of Schmurz Day, June 23rd, 2025. On the show today, openings, closings, and construction, plus a new Disney Cruise Line survey. In listener questions, rocket science. Then in our main segment, Jim gives us the history of Disneyland's Videopolis on its 30th anniversary. Let's get started by bringing in the man who says that traveling with kids isn't a vacation, it's an away game. It's Mr. Jim Hill. Jim, how's it going? And you're playing defense all the time.
And the gear you have.
Yes, you're the equipment manager as well.
Oh my God.
You're doing payroll. You're doing everything.
I mean, I remember when, and again, it just, myself and Michelle would take Alice over to the parks when we lived in Orlando back in the 90s. And I was driving a Geo Metro at the time, which was honestly tiny enough to double for the clown car at Ringling Brothers. But
you drive it directly on to the Tomorrowland Speedway.
There we go. But between the car seat, the Emma Youngo stroller, the 3 changes of clothes, the snacks, the diapers, the bottles of formula, the sunscreen, the special hat that Alice had to wear to keep the sun out of her face. There was barely enough room in the car for the 3 of us and all that gear. And Len, I can't help but think the pioneers, the people who got in those Conestoga wagons who went west with all of their belongings plus their families. I mean, how did they? Well, to be honest, if Oregon Trail is to be believed, none of them actually.
We all died of dysentery.
There we go. All right. So why would I be turning to those people for packing tips? All right.
I was told by ex-wife that installing a car seat has done more to sell 4-door cars in the United States than any sort of advertisement General Motors could have ever done.
Oh, right.
Because if you're ever trying to do that in a 2-door car, you're like, your back starts to hurt. Anyway.
Honestly, the weird part is the Emily Youngest stroller that Michelle insisted we buy. It would probably have been safer for us to put the Geo Metro inside of that thing and push it up by 4. I mean, that was great German engineering where the Geo Metro was mostly made out of tin foil and coat hangers. It was...
I was surprised to see how much like high-end strollers cost these days. You could spend $2,000.
Oh, easy.
On a high-end baby stroller.
Easy. And then if you can teach the child to push you around, double prizes.
Double use, exactly. Smart. Yeah, all right. Speaking of smart, Jim, let us give thanks to our subscribers. Thanks to everyone who subscribes to the show over at patreon.com/Jim Hill Media, including Jennifer Bates, Emlet, Adam Dworkin, Marcia Grimminger, Dave Toast, and Nick Driss. Jim, these are Universal's Halloween Horror Nights designers working on their scariest house yet, called the Icebreaker. Designed exclusively for introverts, you have to say 3 fun facts about yourself just to enter this labyrinth of overstimulation and social interaction. Once inside, the terrifying soundtrack of an open office floor plan is punctuated by non-stop Slack alert bells. Around every corner is someone saying, "Can you hop on a quick call?" And to make it out of the house alive, you have to go through the final room named Group Project. True story.
Oh my God. Wow. No, never.
No, I'll pass on that one.
Okay.
On to the news. Folks, the Disney Dish News is sponsored by DVCRentalStore.com. Have you ever dreamed about staying in deluxe accommodations at Disney for a fraction of the cost? If so, the DVC Rental Store connects guests with incredible savings on Disney Vacation Club resorts. Whether you're a DVC member looking to rent your points or a guest who's looking to stay in style, the DVC Rental Store offers a seamless process for both. And don't forget, they also offer exciting point swaps for unforgettable experiences like cruises and adventure. Please check them out at dvcrentalstore.com/Disney Dish. All right, to the news. Jim, every show should begin with a round of self-congratulations. On the November 4th, 2024 show, we noted that Disney's South Florida Water Management District plans for Tropical Americas showed what looked like a new play area in front of the upcoming Indiana Jones ride. And then last week, Disney announced that area will be the site of a new play area. How about that?
Hey!
And gave us an official closing date of September 2nd for the Boneyard. So we thought it was coming, and it's coming. So that's good.
Well, the irony here is what? We're effectively swapping one archaeological dig, the Boneyard, for now one that Indy has stepped away from for a moment, and the kids can go play in. So that said, given the number of cursed artifacts Indy usually comes across, maybe a little parental supervision. Just saying.
Probably warranted, yeah. I think this play area is going to have water too, just based on the theme of the Indy ride itself.
Okay.
Plus the fact that, I mean, it's only going to get hotter in Florida.
Oh, no, absolutely. Water play, particularly there, especially a smart idea.
Yeah, I think so. Also, Test Track reopens July 22nd, 2025. Disney's released additional video showing one scene that demonstrates how a car with LiDAR, quote, sees the road. And we put that link in the show notes. Mm-hmm. So, Jim, we now know about 2 scenes in Test Track, right? We know that we go through a forest, and we know there's LiDAR. But really, for a ride that's about to open in a couple weeks, we really don't know a whole lot about what's inside of it, do we?
We do not. Though, again, what's worth noting here is cast member previews begin within the week? Is that correct?
Friday.
Yeah.
Friday. And then we should get AP previews, DVC previews probably around July 15th or so. Mm-hmm. So like the week before it opens. Yeah.
Okay.
And speaking of openings, Stormalong Bay has reopened at Yacht and Beach Club just in time for the official start of summer. Yay.
Okay.
And then we missed it in last week's episode, but the Hall of Presidents lobby reopened in Liberty Square on June 8th. And so the next question then is, when is the attraction itself going to reopen? I went back and looked at some dates going back to the turn of the millennium. Mm-hmm. So George W. Bush, when he was installed, was late fall 2001. The Hall of Presidents actually closed on July 4th, 2001. For that installation, and then reopened later on. President Obama was installed and reopened on July 4th. Donald Trump the first time was December 19th. Joe Biden, the reopening was on August 3rd. So July 4th is sort of like the earliest that you would expect Hall of Presidents to reopen for the second Trump presidency.
Is there,
and it should be open before Christmas, yeah.
Is there anything new on display now in the lobby? I mean, normally they use that space for gallery for exhibits. Is that, do we know?
I haven't checked. I'll ask Chrissy to look.
Okay.
Or I'll look when I'm there next week.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Also, Disney extended to mid-2026 the construction refurbishments at Contemporary and Bay Lake Tower. So that's a little bit longer than it originally was.
Okay.
And then over at Universal Orlando, our friend Alicia Stella over at OrlandoParkStop.com has found new construction permits for Epic Universe that look like it's for a new multi-purpose theater or stage. And this area is between the main entrance and Super Nintendo World. The entryway would be through Celestial Park. In the show notes, I added a photo from BioReconstruct showing the helicopter view of that area. And Jim, one of the interesting things here is that it looks like the entrance to this theater could be separate from both the park and from backstage. So you could conceivably use this theater for private events and concerts as well.
Well, remember, that initially was part of the business plan for Epic Universe.
Right.
I mean, this was supposed to be the park where, given its proximity to the Orange County Convention Center, Universal anticipated doing lots of private parties. And as I understand it, that's still on the table, and maybe this is sort of the baby step in that direction.
I think so. The size of the land itself is just under an acre, which doesn't sound like a lot for a stage, but it would be big enough, I think, to include every current Universal stage on property. So, the largest of them. So that's big enough.
All right.
In the same article, Alicia noted 2 more construction permits for the currently unopened restaurant space on the east side of the entrance path into Epic Universe. So the outside of these buildings seems to be finished in the steampunk style that the rest of that part of Celestial Park is. So these permits cover interior construction. So that's good. So hopefully late this year, early next year, we'll get 2 more restaurants in Epic Universe.
What's interesting is you get the place open, you find out what your need is.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see surveys going forward about what they're what foods they're asking folks they're looking for in that park.
Right. Good point. Yeah. And speaking of surveys, let's move into surveys. Brian Babcock sent in a Disney Cruise Line survey with some questions I don't think we've ever seen. The one I like is this one. It says this: knowing that you've shopped, i.e. researched, on the Disney Cruise Line official website for a cruise on the Disney Wonder, but have not booked, which of the following best describes your future intentions to book this ship? And there are 5 choices. I plan to book a cruise on the Disney Wonder closer to the time of my travel dates. Number 2 is I'm still considering the Disney Wonder with other vacations and I haven't made a decision yet. The 3rd is I already booked a cruise on another cruise line. The 4th is I decided on a different type of vacation instead of a cruise. And the 5th is I decided to book a different Disney Cruise Line ship. And the thing I like about this question, Jim, is I think it's designed to measure the selling effectiveness of the DCL website.
Oh.
Because if you look at the responses, you can tell what they tell Disney. So response 1 and response 5, I plan to book a cruise on the Wonder. I'll just do it later. And 5 is I decided to book a different DCL ship. Right. Responses 1 and 5 are indications that the DCL website is working as a sales tool, right? You either booked a Disney cruise or you say you will, and those are the good answers, right?
Okay.
Response 2, I'm still considering the Wonder with other vacations and haven't made a decision yet. That's sort of like the middle ground, right? The DCL website has put DCL into your consideration basket, but you're not convinced. Response 4 is the first one that's going to generate concern, because that says I decided on a different type of vacation instead of a cruise, which means that the DCL website didn't do enough to convince you that cruising is right for you. And then I think response 3, I already booked a cruise on another cruise line, is the most worrying to DCL, because you're demonstrably willing to cruise, but the DCL website didn't do enough to convince you that DCL is the right cruise line choice for you.
I have to admit, I'm kind of fascinated by this because, face it, you and I...
Yeah, I know. It's a great question.
Yeah, but you and I both know between the dedication of folks who've done Disney Cruise Line, how often they return, that sort of thing. I mean, the fact that the boats go out with 90% capacity higher.
Above 90% occupancy, yeah.
Yeah, so it's just the notion of, okay, we can do better. That's fascinating.
And this comes in conjunction with an announcement last week that Disney had reduced the deposit requirement for cruises from 20% to 10%, and also relaxed some of the cancellation terms and conditions as well. So it looks like Disney's trying to get ahead, I guess, of some sort of softness in the cruise market for the second half of the year. That's what this feels like.
Okay. That's a couple of very interesting canaries in the coal mine you've spotted there. So
yeah, I don't think they're unrelated. So thanks for Brian for sending that in.
Yeah.
All right, on to listener questions. Alex Sinek wrote in with an interesting Bloomberg article, which I've linked to in the show notes, and it's on the Hampton Inn hotel chain. And I want to point out 2 points from this article. The first one is the, quote, free breakfast that guests get at Hampton Inn cost the hotel less than $5 per room, but a family of 4 perceives the value as $50. And the reason why I'm interested in this question is for Disney benefits like early theme park entry. What do you think the value is for that? That a family perceives?
Oh gosh,
it's not zero.
No, not at all. I'm I'm trying to work backwards from. I'm always startled these days when I go through the drive-thru at McDonald's what the prices are. So a family of 4 getting a breakfast, what is that? 30, 35, 40?
Yes, $35 or $40. Yes, in 1985. Probably now it's closer to $50. Yeah.
Okay, there we go. All right.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah, I believe the breakfast thing is $50. I don't think Disney could ever offer free breakfast simply because it would cannibalize all their character breakfast meals. So they're never going to do that. The other interesting thing in the article is that Hampton Inn moved to white bedspreads because they show the guests that the bedspreads are clean. And that almost certainly explains Disney's move to white bedspreads across the resort as well.
Interesting. So, I mean, that says that without saying anything. It just, you visually demonstrate that. Oh, wow. Okay.
Yep. The other thing that I liked in the article is that Hampton Inn is very big on standardizing hotel design, especially room design, so that the guests feel comfortable in choosing a hotel that they've never been to before. So you know what a Hampton Inn is going to get you anywhere in the world. And apparently Barack Obama likes Hampton Inns because the light switches are always in the same place in the room. He's actually on record saying this, and I put a link to it in the show notes. And I mention this because, Disney is also standardizing the look of their hotel rooms. I think the last time we were in a new room, which I believe was the Poly Island Tower, which I love. One of the questions I ask when I go into a new hotel room, especially a Disney hotel room, is if we change the artwork and we change the light fixtures, could this be the Beach Club? Or could this be the Wilderness Lodge? And so there's two sort of things in tension there, right? One is, guests who have never stayed at a Disney hotel want to know that they're going to like the room that they haven't stayed in before. So some amount of standardization is probably necessary. On the other hand, I think a lot of people who have been to Disney's hotels know that one of the big differentiators is theming, right? And it's tough to do both.
Yeah, that's a hard sweet spot to hit, to have consistency in design, but at the same time feel like I'm at a specific hotel because of a design element.
Right. Well, so ideally what you'd like is the ability to communicate to guests that, yes, this is a room that is themed to the African savanna, and you can see animals outside of it, and we've got mosquito netting and hand-carved details, but the light switches are exactly where you'd expect them to be. So don't worry about that, right? Like, that would be the blend there.
I wonder, you were talking, this is a couple of months back when the Poly Island Tower opened, and again, fairly clean, consistent design, not heavy on the theming, but face it, the perk there is you're sitting at the edge of Seven Seas Lagoon. You're looking out at the Magic Kingdom, or all the boats going back and forth. And could that be considered the theming? The notion of the view?
Yeah, I think Disney sells location and view as intrinsically coupled into the hotel room price. Right, the closer you get to a theme park, the more expensive the hotel rooms are, and then the view would be the next thing that that Disney prices into it. Yeah, definitely.
Got it.
All right, we have an email from Aaron Basta, who writes in with a comment and a question, and the comment is this: the contraption that Walter Cronkite was pictured in a couple episodes ago, we were talking about Mission Space, could have been a precursor to the partial gravity simulator called Pogo. And Aaron helpfully included 2 links to NASA's official website with pictures that look like, something that Walter Cronkite was in. Also, Aaron is a rocket scientist in real life, so she knows what she's talking about, and it does look like an early version of the Pogo-like thing. So that's likely it. Cool. The second part was this: on the show, you've discussed the turn towards focusing on Hollywood stars and then Disney IP in the parks. What do you think it would take for the pendulum to swing back and have Disney prioritize park exclusive IP for its rides? How far in the future might that be? This is an interesting question, Jim, and I bring it up in the context of Test Track reopening. Because I think Test Track is the blueprint here. Because I think it would take corporate sponsorship money for Disney to build a ride that is not themed to one of its IPs. Because if Disney's spending their own money, they're going to use it in the parks to promote the films and TV. But a corporate sponsor might be less likely to spend their own money to promote Disney's IP in a Disney ride, in a Disney theme park, right? Why are we doing your advertising for you?
Okay.
So I think corporate sponsorship.
I think you're definitely onto something there. And not to belabor the obvious, though, but again, if Disney is spending its own money, it does in fact have to go to the board and do the tap dance to the effect of, this is what we're doing. And the board is that much more likely to put up a big check if, all right, which IP is this tied to? How did that film do? How are merch sales? That sort of thing. Yeah, it's remember, the board motto is, on Wednesdays we talk synergy. So yeah. Okay.
All right. From our friend Kelly Reese. He says, given the changes coming to DCA and its inevitable rebranding, may I just put out there my suggested name for the park: Disney Company Acquisitions. It fits the park direction. They can keep the acronym and save on rebranding. Just kick off the party with a few well-timed activations. And it's on brand. And I just got to say, Jim, I need to start reading these emails after my medication kicks in, Beforehand it's just getting really hard.
I get that, but on the other hand, Kelly, Kelly's not wrong.
We do the jokes here, Kelly. We do the jokes.
There we go.
Yeah, it was great. Good job, Kelly. All right. Finally, Jeff Clune writes in with another name suggestions besides pizza pie for Monstropolis' counter-serving dining. And Jeff goes with this, Pizza Rozzo. Oh! Wow.
Okay. I'm sorry. We just made some Imagineers' life so much easier. It's like, we got to change 2 letters. Two.
Literally, they already have all but one of the letters. They need an extra O.
There we go.
The thing I pointed out to Jeff. Also, Jeff, let me point out, we do the jokes around here. Thank you.
Yeah, there we go.
All right, folks, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, Jim gives us the history of Disneyland's Videopolis on its 30th anniversary. We'll be right back.
The Disney Plus Hulu Max bundle. It's the ultimate bundle for an unbelievable price. Plans starting at $16.99 a month. Get it and watch Marvel Television's Ironheart on Disney Plus.
I want to build something iconic.
A new season of The Bear on Hulu.
We can make people happy.
And The Epic, a Minecraft movie on Max.
Anything you can imagine is possible.
The Disney Plus Hulu Max bundle. Plans starting at $16.99 a month. All these and more streaming soon. Terms apply. Visit DisneyPlusHuluMaxBundle.com for details.
I think you're on mute.
Workday's starting to sound the same.
I think you're on mute.
Find something that sounds better for your career on LinkedIn. With LinkedIn Job Collections, you can browse curated collections by relevant industries and benefits, like flex PTO or hybrid workplaces, so you can find the right job for you. Get started at linkedin.com/jobs. Finding where you fit. LinkedIn knows how.
Who says you can't be the topic of conversation for all the right reasons? The Hyundai Tucson Hybrid pairs bold presence with advanced technology and sleek style. It's everything you didn't know you needed in an SUV and then some. Okay, Hyundai. Visit HyundaiUSA.com to learn more.
And we're back. All right, Jim. We've been talking a lot about Michael Eisner's early days at Disney, and
there we have.
This is another sort of his like mid journey ideas, right? Videopolis.
Well, yeah. Again, think about it. Michael Eisner installed a new head of the Disney company late September in 1984. And in relatively short order, he puts a lot of stuff in motion. I mean, Captain EO, Star Tours, Splash Mountain, MGM Studios theme park, not to mention the Grand Flow, the Caribbean Beach Resort, and even, in fact, you found documentation of this in Buzz Price's papers, the early meetings about timeshare, that sort of stuff. And all of that fuels explosive growth at the parks during Eisner's first 5 years. But what we're going to talk about today, Len, is Michael's first 5 months, which, if we're being blunt here, February of 1985, Eisner's getting a little antsy. I mean, he's just presided over his first shareholders meeting, and everyone who showed up to the Anaheim Convention Center learned that Disney's partnering with Lucasfilm to create new stuff for the park. And but again, here's the thing. All the stuff that we just talked about, Captain EO, Star Tours, Splash Mountain, it's not going to be ready for the public to actually see and experience. I mean, EO won't debut at Disneyland or Epcot for another 19 months yet. That's September of 86.
Wow.
Star Tours, even further out, January of 87. And Splash Mountain. I mean, nobody knows this yet because that's originally supposed to open fall of 88. In fact, the target was Thanksgiving of that year. They wind up with severe operational issues, which is a polite way of saying they angled the drop the wrong way, and anybody who goes down the mountain, I mean, they don't get splashed, they get soaked.
Right.
They have to go back in, and it takes 8 months to get that fixed, so it doesn't open until July of 89.
Okay, so it's February of 85, and we're looking 19 months, basically 2 years, and 3.5 years for all of these projects. So nothing immediate.
No, more to the point, it's all expensive. And Eisner, again, Eisner's in his honeymoon period with the investing community, which Michael's enough of a realist to know not going to last. And remember, before he became CEO, company had to make huge payouts to Ivan Boesky and Saul Steinberg and then take on enormous amounts of debt just so that the company then becomes a less attractive target for green mailers. And so Disney needs to show Wall Street something soon that says, we're aware of your financial concerns. We're actively looking for ways to mitigate this debt. So given this situation, Michael needs something that he can get off the ground quickly, no later than the summer of 1985, which now, 4 months away, it has to...
He's going to put on the best talent show this town's ever seen.
All right. Hold that thought. Okay. All right. But it's got to be big. It's got to be flashy. It's got to capture the attention of, well, not just the theme park going public, but also the investment community. And by the way, did I mention, since this thing has to be built quickly, it also has to have the potential of making a lot of money very, very fast. And now, same window of time. Demographics-related report lands on Eisner's desk. Points out a very big problem the company is facing in the same window of time. And back then, Disney's core audience, the people who were buying the company's products and going to see the movies the studio was making, it has a huge hole in the middle of Atlanta. To be clear here, kids 3 to 12, loyal customers. Likewise, so are their parents, 28 to 35 and older. But that group in between 13 to 27 years old. And by the way, this is the group that, because they don't have kids yet, have the most available disposable income.
Yeah, it's like the most coveted demographic for marketing at the time, right? Yeah.
And at this period in time, they won't be caught dead going into a Disney film or buying Disney merch because, look, at that point in the company's history, Disney was considered kid stuff, juvenile, uncool. And so Michael's like, all right, we have to do something immediately that turns around this specific demographic problem. So what can we do to make ourselves more appealing to teens and young adults? And this is when somebody at Disneyland says, well, have you seen what Knott's Berry Farm did last year? And again, we're talking 84 now. They took that theme park's old McDonald's Farm petting zoo, which had been part of Knott's Fiesta Village area for decades at that point, and flattened it. And in its place, they built Studio K, which was this big outdoor dance club for teens. And Len, just some specifics here. 4,800 square foot dance floor, capable of holding 1,000 dancers. Laser lights, a 12-foot high video screen, which played the latest music videos straight from MTV. There's a DJ and a
pause there, Jim. Pause. We need a listener note here. Okay, for all of you under the age of 50, MTV was once a cable television station. MTV stood for Music Television, and the conceit was that they would play music on television in the form of short-form music videos. That's what that was.
Yeah.
Okay, because that's not what MTV does these days.
Actually, thank you.
MTV used to play music videos, right?
Okay. Back in the day. But also to date this project, in addition to having a DJ and a sound booth, they also had a special area at Studio K just for breakdancing contests.
The breakdancing is now an Olympic event, Jim.
Yes, that's what I mean.
I'm just saying. It's a valid art form as far as I'm concerned.
Without dispute.
All right, so Knott's opens Studio K. Does it work?
Yeah, June 14th, 1984, smash hit right out of the gate. Orange County teens loved this thing. They pay $8 to gain entry to that theme park after 7 p.m. and then dance the night away. Now, mind you, there's now a whole different type of petting going on at Old MacDonald's Farm, but, and to be honest here, that does concern some of the more conservative moms and dads in Orange County. But Michael Eisner, he's like, how much are they paying to get each night to get into this dance club? And we need one of those yesterday.
Yeah, and they're probably buying food while they're there.
Yeah. So
okay.
Michael calls together senior members of the team at Walt Disney Imagineering, as well as the entertainment staff at Disney Parks, and says by the first day of summer this year, which is a reminder, June 21st, summer solstice, and by the way, at this point, only 100 days away, I want Disneyland to have its own Studio K. And go.
This reminds me, you were in the Army, right?
There we go. Yeah.
Okay, so if you're a colonel and you want to get a flagpole erected, how do you do it? You say, Sergeant, get this flagpole erected.
There we go. I'll be at the officers club. All right. So as to how these guys got that flagpole erected, got Videopolis built, by the way, known to even today as the 100-day miracle. We'll get to that in a moment. But first, this.
Vitamin Water Zero Sugar has great taste, zero BS, and obviously zero sugar. For those with zero room in their calendar, zero patience for slow walkers, those who get 0 hours of sleep on a Saturday night, have zero filter, zero given, and zero interest in grabbing a plain, boring water. Grab a delicious Vitamin Water Zero Sugar today.
Whatever the occasion, effortless elegance is right this way. Because Hilton brings you new ways to stay courtesy of the Nomad London. And it doesn't stop at award-winning dining in a space draped in velvet and illuminated by vintage chandeliers. No, this day goes beyond with unparalleled personalized service and attentive hospitality. Oh, and did we mention the Nomad London can be booked using your Hilton Honors points at Hilton.com? Hilton, for this day.
Are your business expenses playing hide and seek? With Uber for Business, the small spends that slip through the cracks, like rides and meals, go right where you need them. Because it integrates with leading expense platforms, you can say goodbye to surprise costs, missing dollars, or chasing receipts. Everything's track downable. Uber for Business. Make small steps that make a big impact. Learn more at uber.com/small steps.
And we're back. Okay, so Michael Eisner, new boss, says, I want Disneyland to have its own teen dance club by the first day of summer, 1985. And again, reminder, this is late February, same year when Eisner's making this order, laying down this edict. So what do the Imagineers and Disneyland's entertainment team do? Well, initially, Len, they follow the path of least resistance. They're like, okay, we already got the space stage right there in the middle of Tomorrowland. Why don't we just take that chunk of the park, install a few lasers, put up a video screen, and boom, we transfer the space stage into Disneyland's first ever dance club for teens. We'll operate it only at night, and we'll call it Galaxy.
All right, so where specifically in Disneyland Tomorrowland is this space?
Well, funny you bring that up, Len.
Because I'm trying to envision where it is, but I wasn't in Disneyland back in the mid-'80s.
Okay. The polite way of putting it is it's where Captain EO was built.
Okay. So there's an upcoming twist to our story.
There we go. They happily trot their plan back up to Burbank and lay it down on Michael's desk, and we've solved your problem. It's, well, no, I have a problem for your problem. We're, in fact, they had the news hadn't broken that Disney was talking with Michael Jackson about doing the 3D. In fact, that news wouldn't break till May of the same year, 1985. And so now it's like, I'm sorry, guys, that's taken. You got to find a different place for this.
But Eisner couldn't have told them ahead of time because the negotiations were still ongoing and had to be hush-hush.
There we go.
Makes sense.
There we go.
Okay.
All right. So Imagineers and the entertainment team, all right, regroup. They look around the park. There's this chunk of unused real estate It's a meadow. In fact, it's a meadow just across the way from Disneyland's old motorboat cruise land. In fact, if you go to the park today, if you're coming out of Fantasyland and you make a left, Matterhorn's on your right, and you're walking towards Small World, where the Fantasyland Theater stands today, that's where this unused, undeveloped piece of land was located. So they're like, okay, we go there. Problem. It literally is undeveloped land. No plumbing, no electrical, but it's like, Eisner wants us. They wade in there with chainsaws and bulldozers. Once the trees are down and the land is graded, they send the backhoes in and start digging trenches for all the water pipe and electrical conduit.
But plumbing is just expensive and time consuming.
It is. Okay. And that's the thing. All right. This is double the expense of what we were going to try to do over in Tomorrowland. So we need to save money. And how can we do that? Coincidentally, the year previous, Los Angeles had hosted the Summer Games. In fact, 28 different venues across the city, athletes competed for Olympic gold. Event had been an enormous success, but now the athletes have gone home and all of this infrastructure is lying around. And which is when Disneyland raises its hand and say, hey, how much? How much you want for the sound system? And that lighting rig. And those columns over there. We call dibs on those too.
It's like crazy Eddie sale.
There we go. All right. And so all of this stuff gets thrown on the back of trucks and then driven down to Anaheim, which is then speedily installed around this 4-story tall, 90-foot wide stage, which is being built as Videopolis' main performance area. And not to put too fine a point in it, but everything that Knott's had up and running in its Studio K, Disney wanted to be a little better. So, for example, Knott's has a 4,800 square foot dance floor capable of holding 1,000 teens. Videopolis has a 5,000 square foot dance floor, can hold 3,000 teens. I'm assuming some of that involves lubricant. You just push more kids under the floor. Okay. Studio K has a video screen 12 foot by 16 foot wide. Disney, they got 2 of those because, again, they were left over from the Olympics. Yeah. Now, mind you, the brilliant part of this plan, Knott's, again, as we mentioned during the show, is charging Orange County teens $8 to get in their parks, gain access to Studio K, but that's after 7 p.m. at night. Whereas at Disneyland, the plan is we're going to offer a pass $7 a night, and those same teens can get into the happiest place on earth at 5 p.m.
Oh, okay.
All right, now, to get back to why Eisner is so insistent that Videopolis has to be opened by the first official day of summer, June 21st, 1985, and that is because of Grad Night.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so Grad Night, for those of you who don't know, after-hours hard-ticket event that the happiest place on earth has been presenting since 1961, and it's basically this all-night party where high school seniors who typically come to Disneyland from west of the Mississippi are locked inside the park until the next morning, but they have access to all of the ride shows and attractions in the park, the special musical entertainment.
It's the only one of 2 times I've ever stayed all night in a Disney theme park. The other one was during the 24-hour events.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but I did Grad Night in '86 in Florida. Yeah.
Oh, very cool. Okay, well, as London will tell you, hugely popular annual offering.
Oh, yeah.
And in the late spring, early summer of 1985, Disneyland was slated to have 8 Grad Nights with 128,000 soon-to-be high school graduates coming into the park. And the thinking here was, well, look, these kids who are traveling to Disneyland for Grad Night, they are literally our target audience for the Videopolis. More to the point, they're this demographic we are desperately chasing. So if we have the park's new dance club up and running for this year's Grad Night, we can effectively field test the thing before we open it to the public, and we can make any tweaks we need to make out ahead of the grand opening. Now, Len, not easy to make that deadline. In fact, I've talked with members of the construction team, and they talk about how they are rushing during the latter phase of construction. In fact, there's a forklift comes onto the work site carrying all these bags of cement. As the bags are being offloaded, the forklift's brake slips, and it begins to roll backwards downhill toward the flimsy plywood construction fence that is separating the Videopolis worksite with Small World Plaza.
Oh, it's either gonna run into some tourists or run into the canal, the waterway.
There we go. And by the way, it's a busy morning at the park when this happens. If it hadn't been for one fleet-footed construction worker who was able to hop on the thing and slam on the brake, it would have blown through the fence and certainly have flattened a couple of tourists. So,
okay.
All right, but anyway, they get Videopolis in good enough shape that for the last 3 grad nights of 1985, the ones that have on June 19th, June 20th, and June 21st, do the Teen Dance Club operational. And all those high school seniors seem to enjoy the facility. Now, that said, Len, Disneyland's neighbors, who have been putting up with fireworks exploding overhead every summer night during the presentation of Fantasy in the Sky, weren't exactly thrilled to hear Madonna blaring outside of their bedroom windows at 3 a.m.
Yeah, you know what?
So, Disney has to. All right, we'll get some sound baffles. We'll work with the placement of the speakers. We're so sorry. But more interesting, those high school seniors who left grad night on the 19th, 20th, and 21st, as they're going out for their bus for the ride home, they're handed a flyer that says, hey, we've got a new pass at Disneyland. We're about to begin offering Videopolis Passport that for just $40, you can gain access to the park every day starting at 5 p.m. from June 22nd through September 7th. And oh, by the way, if you present this flyer when you come to buy your Videopolis Passport, we'll shave $5 off the price.
You know there are parents out there that are like, I will give you the $35 to leave this house
yes.
every night during the
there
summer.
We go.
Okay.
Don't go away angry. Just go away.
Just go away. It's free babysitting. Yeah.
There we go.
Exactly.
But it does.
I'm just going to ask you another question, too, because Hannah and I were talking about this the other day. Mm-hmm. So, I generally know where Hannah is all the time, even though she lives in a different state. When you were growing up, during the summer, did your parents kick you out of the house around 8 a.m. and told you to be back sometime before, midnight? Did they have any idea where you were? Like, you were basically raised on the streets by hose water, right?
The thing, there were 7 of us in the teeny tiny ranch house where I was raised. I had 3 brothers and a sister and 1 bathroom. So yes, when I drank hose water, I was probably peeing in somebody else's bushes immediately afterwards. But I
think I could have told my mom, hey, I'm going to go down to the dump because there's supposed to be the body of a hobo over there.
There we go.
We're going to go look at it. And my mom would be like, take your sister and your younger brother. Get them out of the house too. I don't know.
Speaking of which, fun little bend on the story. In fact, this has come from Nancy. We're doing a cancer one spring a couple of years back, and Nancy's with my mom, and they're walking behind myself and my brothers and my sister, and Nancy notices that every single one of the now grown Hill children has at least one shoe untied, and she turns to my mother, and it's like, what's going on there? Didn't you teach them to tie their shoes? And my mother, rather matter-of-factly, well, no. And she said, well, why? Is it thinning the herd?
It's one. Maybe it was just saying your worst case scenario is one less mouth to feed.
There we go. Falls down in traffic. There we go. All right. Anyway, back to video.
Is your mom German by any chance? I'm just guessing.
In her heart. Okay. Anyway, Videopolis officially opens June 22nd. It does exactly what they wanted to do. It drives up attendance levels all summer long in 85. The investment community is pleased at how quickly Disney got this thing up running. By the way, very cost effective thanks to all of that secondhand infrastructure that they, again, got left over from the Summer Olympics of '84. Videopolis, the entire thing, Len, only $3 million. And
wow.
Okay. Two other things actually worth noting about this dance club. Videopolis was responsible for Disneyland rescinding its long-standing policy that same-sex couples weren't allowed to dance together when they were inside the park. And just to be clear here, Andrew Exler and Sean Elliott had been tossed out of Disneyland back in September of 1980 because they decided to challenge the park's ban on same-sex couples dancing together. And it took a couple of years for the case to get through the courts. But by May of 84, courts had determined, yep, Disneyland, you violated Sean and Andrew's civil rights. And
civil rights. Okay, fair.
Walt Disney Productions initially announced they would fight this decision. They were in the process of filing it.
Really?
Yeah.
In California?
Well, you got to remember that Disneyland, Orange County, very conservative area. But now, here comes Michael Eisner, installed as the new CEO September that same year, 84. And Michael, who was and still is a fairly progressive, open-minded guy, was like, the same-sex couples can't dance together policy at the park. Dumb idea, especially on the heels of opening Videopolis. So August of 85, the park drops this policy. And since we're in the middle of Pride Month right now, thought that might be an interesting factoid to mention. Also,
that's fantastic.
We're noting about Videopolis. A favorite food item at the Disney parks seems to have made its debut, the official debut at Anaheim as part of this project. And I'm quoting now from the official press release that the park issued prior to the opening of Videopolis, which states that in addition to Yums, and that's the on-site snack bar that was built to support the dance club, where you could go to get a Coke or a thing of popcorn, there were going to be 2 carts there that will sell churros, which the press release felt necessary to explain. Is this Mexican pastry?
Really? So churros started because of Videopolis and Michael Eisner.
Yeah. But what I love about this is that Disneyland's publicity department felt the need to explain what churros were, as if people living around L.A., hadn't yet encountered this deep-fried, rolled in cinnamon sugar goodie.
I wonder if the next press release was like, did you know that you can buy tamales from women in parking lots selling them out of a cooler? That's also true. So that's interesting. So that's the history of churros in the parks. And I'm reminded of this because I was reading something the other day. I think I was looking up the corporate sponsorship thing. And did you know that, because you did the story, that Doritos were invented in Disneyland, right? They were invented it. Right. Okay. Do you know what the market for Doritos is in any given year now?
No. How much?
$1.6 billion worth of Doritos are sold every year.
And think of that. That's all on the back of some Disneyland employee to the effect of, what are we going to do with these unused tortillas?
Fry them.
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go.
Fried and season them. Yeah. Brilliant. Yeah. All right. Anyway.
Okay. One last little bend in the story. Both Studio K and Videopolis, relatively short-lived things. By 1991, both teen dance clubs did ceased operations and inside of Disneyland.
Thanks, grunge. Good.
But both these, Disneyland takes Videopolis, reconfigures it. It becomes the Fantasyland Theater, still used today, by the way. This is where the Pixar Pals Playtime Party is being presented this summer. By the way, if you were interested in learning more about this specific era, the 1980s, over at Knott's Berry Farm, Chris Merritt and Eric Linsweiler, they have written a terrific new book, Knott's Berry Tales, and there will be an event held at that theme park, Knott's Berry Farm, on July 5th. It will feature appearances by veteran Imagineers Chris Crump and Eddie Sato, plus you can get the 2 Chris's as well as Eric and Eddie to sign your copy of the book, plus learn more about the history of the park. The theme park just down the street from Disney. And looking for info on this, just head on over to Mice Chat. They're working with Chris and Eric J to do the Knott's Berry Tales thing, which again presented Saturday, July 5th. And speaking of veteran Imagineers, don't forget that Jim Schul, who's Len and My's partner on Disney Unpacked, our Patreon project, he also has his own channel over on YouTube, Disney Journey, and he's been posting some great stuff there. Anyway, that brings us to the end of this week's feature. Though, Len, at some point in the future, we should probably talk about the other Videopolises that used to be out there. There was, of course, Videopolis East, one of the original nightclubs at Walt Disney World's Pleasure Island. That one kind of...
Oh, right. I forgot about that.
Yeah. Very short-lived, though. Only lasted a year. Then it was rethemed, I want to say in 89 as The Cage, and then in 92 it became 8 Tracks, which... that one made it all the way till Pleasure Island closed in September of 2008. And then there was the Videopolis that was built over at Disneyland Paris. That combination performance space, undercover quick service restaurant, has been part of that park since day one, April of 1992. And now I really, really want a churro.
Oh. I forgot Videopolis is still in Disneyland Paris.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That tells you how static that park has been since the 90s. But yeah, so churros too.
Yeah.
How about that?
So yeah, it is just a fascinating story, and again, a window into the early days of Michael Eisner at the at the Disney company. More to the point, how eager the folks there were to please the new boss. It's like 100 days, sure, absolutely, we can do that.
Oh, fantastic. All right, folks, that's going to do it for the show today. You can help support our show by subscribing over at patreon.com/JimHillMedia, where we're posting exclusive shows every week. Our latest show with Imagineer Jim Scholl is a review of Muppets in the theme parks. On next week's show, something fantastic, I guarantee it. You can find more of Jim at JimHillMedia.com and more of me, Len, at TouringPlans.com. We're produced spectacularly by Eric Kersey and David Gray, who'll be teaching their most popular Khan Academy class, Make Your Own Taxidermy and Save, live at the 2025 San Jose Oddities and Curiosities Expo, July 12th through the 13th, 2025, at the San Jose McCurney Convention Center in beautiful downtown San Jose, California. While Eric and David are doing that, please go onto iTunes and rate our show and tell us what you'd like to hear next. For Jim, this is Len. We will see you on the next show.
Help them dancing that way out. Wow, brand new baby. Surreal.